Hi, this week I finished my project on Blobz, and what you can see in the background is published in YouTube. In this video, I want to talk about how everything came about. So let's start from the beginning, the modeling. As you can see, these models are really simple. While at the beginning I had two different designs for them, I ended up with simple slime as the body and two arms, also a hat, and later on, friend suggested a staff for him, so I made a simple staff for him as well. For this model to look smooth, I actually subdivided it one time from the original design. If I wanted, I could just on smooth, and you can see that everything is correct, and I could do this for arms as well. But I didn't want to do that because I wanted really smooth bodies, and that's what I decided on. Then moving on, I did textures. And these textures are simple. They were drawn in Substance Painter, and there I painted everything by hand. I used a grayscale and then used a gradient colors. For example, for the hat, I had a gradient of this greenish color from white to dark green, and for the staff from white to dark purple. For the slime, I had two textures from white to dark blue and from purple to dark purple. And also, I just forgot to mention for the hat also the same gradient as for the staff here. And the only thing that didn't have a gradient was the eyes. I drew every single different design that I have, and you can see here I have keyed every single texture on him for the showcase. So I have 16 different drawings, and I like every single one of them, and in the future I can easily add more. Then comes rigging, and here you can see uh, controllers for the body. I'm not a rigger, but I have a little bit of experience doing it, and I'll showcase what everything does. So I have main controller that moves everything, this controller that moves only the staff, this controller I can rotate the body from below. This one moves everything apart from the very bottom of the body, and this one moves mostly the head, but also the head, and that's quite it for controllers. Underneath here I have joints, which are under constraint of parent of these controllers here. Another part of rigging, in my opinion, is how I made the animations of eyes blinking and mouth opening on the body. I created an attribute and made different names and different name for each frame. I connected every single one of them uh, via set driven key, and of course I had to be using an image sequence, and that way it is made. And actually I made the same thing for the staff here. The attribute is on this controller here, and I can change between these 5 different images, and the very end of the staff changes the color. It is a minor detail, but I like it, so I'm planning on keeping it, and I don't think that anything needs to be changed here. As for blinking, I'm planning to add more in between frames. You can see that the eye movement is choppy, so I think that I need two in between images for the eyes. But let's move on how I made this animation. It is quite simple. So for the blinking, I animated this body. I just had to key it, and to make a blink, I counted every 3 frames, and then I left them closed for a little bit longer, and then the same every two frames, opening a little bit more. And then similarly later on, but this blink I made a little bit slower for him to open the eyes. So he seems a little bit more tired. Then I started opening the mouth here because I wanted to make a yawn, and I think I did a pretty good job, but I'm not 100% sure on this part. I like it, but maybe something could have looked differently. And then at the very end, he starts to slowly close his eyes and he's opening his mouth to show that he is sleeping. Then I had animated this controller here to symbolize the movement of yawning, and then I made an animation for the arm to appear only for yawning part, and for it to move together with the body and disappear when he is done yawning. And in the future, if I do more animations with him, he will have a second arm only when it is needed. For example, for yawning, maybe for holding the staff with two arms or something like that. But moving on, I actually also made another layer for moving the body up and down for the idle movement. You can see it here. He is moving up and down a little bit. I did this up and down motion for these three controllers here. These three controllers had the movement up and down, and I adjusted it a little bit more on the yawning part. I made it disappear on the body for a little bit, but I kept moving the arm. But later on, after the yawn, I made this idle animation just a tiny bit smaller, and I think it turned out quite well. And during all this time, the light is actually also blinking. You can see the change here, and it is really subtle, and you won't really notice it the first time, but if you do notice it, it is a nice touch in my opinion. That's it for the animation part, and then comes in rendering. I used one light, and it is Skydome light with intensity of 1.5, and I entered off camera. I didn't want to have a background, and I upped volume samples. Then in render settings, here I made the image format TIFF. I read that PNG doesn't really have an actual transparent background, so TIFF and EXR images should be fine. At the beginning, I exported EXR images, but when I put on DaVinci Resolve to see how it turned out, the color was a little bit different, darker for some reason. In the viewport or a render preview, it looked fine, but when I used the image file, it was different color. So I tried TIFF, and TIFF was good for me. So I used this format for this project. Then I chose frame naming to be name dot hashtag dot ext, and for frame range I used from 1 to 290. For image size I didn't want it to be as big as for an AMI project, which was 4K. This one is HD. It is 1920 by 1080 pixels, and I didn't change resolution or anything else in this tab. But in Arnold Render, I upped camera and diffuse levels. But honestly, I didn't really notice a difference between diffuse of 2 and camera of 3 and these settings. So I don't think that was necessary to do. And I would have saved a little bit of render time if I didn't up these settings. And system and AOVs, I didn't do anything. I don't have plans with AOVs for this project. I used CPU render, and I rendered for some time. I am actually not sure how long it took to render because I went to sleep and in the morning it was done. So this project is actually done, as in I am not planning to upload any more videos about this guy, and I will move on to doing other projects that I set my path in a previous video, and I can check the box for this one as it is completely done. Next up, I believe, is trying to paint normal maps. I'm planning to watch some videos how other people do it. And next week's update should be a video of how I model something. I have an idea of what I want to make, but I don't want to reveal it yet. Maybe I will change my mind when I start. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Consider liking and subscribing, and bye.